My dad acts like a child, and somehow I'm the problem. I grew up on a farm, and for as long as I can remember, my dad has always had very traditional views. He believes men should provide, and women should take care of everything else. The problem is, my dad never actually made enough money to support the family. So my mom worked full-time, cooked, cleaned, and helped raise 3 kids. Meanwhile, my dad had one favorite phrase: "I'll do it later." A fence breaks? I'll do it later. Something around the house stops working? I'll do it later. Days would turn into weeks. Weeks would into months. And nothing would happen. Eventually, I'd get frustrated. We'd have a huge argument. And suddenly, he'd decide to start the job. He'd go buy a bunch of supplies, spend money we didn't need to spend, and act like he was saving the day. But there was always one problem. The job was never finished. Or if it was, I usually had to fix it afterward. So eventually I stopped asking. I taught myself how to repair fences, fix plumbing, service tractors, repair electric gates, and handle most of the farm maintenance myself. Because honestly, the hardest part of fixing anything was fixing whatever my dad had already done. Now he tells people I treat him like a child. He says I don't respect him. He says I make him feel useless. And recently, he told me I'm one of the reasons his marriage to my mom is falling apart, because I stopped relying on him. But after 22 years of hearing, "I'll do it later," was I really supposed to keep waiting? My fiancée left me for a richer guy. Then she found out who he really was. I was engaged to my fiancée for 3 years. We'd already booked the venue, sent invitations, and put deposits on almost everything. Then she met someone at work. At first, she said they were just friends. But suddenly, she was staying late, taking weekend trips, and acting like I was a stranger. Then one night, she sat me down and told me she was leaving. For him, she said he was successful, ambitious, and could give her the life she wanted. It felt like someone punched me in the chest, but I let her go. 6 months later, I heard they were engaged. Then things got weird. People started whispering. Apparently, his stories didn't add up. The luxury apartment wasn't his. The expensive car was leased. And the company he claimed to own? He never owned it. Turns out he had been lying to everyone about almost everything. Within a few months, he disappeared, along with money he'd borrowed from friends. And suddenly my ex was calling me. She wanted to meet. She said she'd made a mistake, that she missed what we had, that she'd been fooled. Then she asked if we could try again. I looked at her for a second and realized something. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't heartbroken anymore. I just didn't trust her. So I told her no. She left me for the life she thought she wanted. And I finally realized she wasn't the person I thought she was either. My stepmom tried to kick me out of my own house. Then one phone call changed everything. My dad passed away last year. I was devastated. But things got even worse after the funeral. My stepmom started acting like the house belonged to her. She changed the locks, moved my stuff into the garage, and told me I had 30 days to leave. I was shocked. The house had belonged to my dad for over 20 years. But she kept insisting it was hers now. Every conversation turned into an argument. Then one day, she handed me an eviction notice. That's when I decided to call a lawyer. I figured I'd ask a few questions, maybe see if there was anything I could do. I honestly thought I was out of options. Then the lawyer asked me one question. "Did your father have a will?" I told him yes, and everything changed. Turns out, my dad had updated his will 6 months before he died, and he left the house to me. Not half, not a percentage. The entire house. I couldn't believe it. The lawyer told me my stepmom had no legal right to evict me. And it got worse. She had already spent thousands of dollars from an account that wasn't hers to touch. Within weeks, she went from trying to kick me out to being the one forced to leave. Now half the family says I did the right thing. The other half says I should have let her stay. But after everything she did, would you? I spent an entire year warning my girlfriend not to do this. And now she says I'm ruining her life. We've been together for 2 years. And for the last year, my girlfriend absolutely hated her job. Every week she'd talk about quitting. And every time, I told her the same thing. Find another job first. Not once. Not twice. For an entire year. Then one day, my phone rang. It was my girlfriend. She sounded excited. She told me she had finally done it. She quit. On the spot. No backup plan. No new job. No saving strategy. Nothing. I asked what she was going to do. She told me she'd figure it out. So I wished her luck and hoped she was right. A month later, my phone rang again. This time she wasn't excited. She was panicking. She told me she couldn't make rent. And then she asked me a question. Can you pay it for me? Now technically, I have the money. I could cover it, but it would take a huge chunk out of my savings. So I said no. That's when everything exploded. She told me I was unsupportive. Her friends started calling me selfish. And suddenly, I was the villain. But I can't stop thinking about one thing. If she knew rent was coming, and if I warned her for an entire year, why am I responsible for fixing this? I pretended to be my twin sister, and I may have ruined someone's life. My sister and I are identical twins. The only way people can tell us apart is a small birthmark on my neck. A few months ago, my sister developed a crush on a guy, and I found out he was completely in love with her too. I should have been happy for her, but I wasn't. Out of the two of us, I've always been the popular one, the outgoing one, the one people notice. And for some reason, I couldn't stand the idea of her getting something I didn't have, especially not love. Then I got an opportunity. My sister got sick and missed a bonfire with her friends. So I did something I'll probably regret forever. I went pretending to be her. Nobody noticed. Not her friends. Not him. I sat next to him, and he looked happier than I'd ever seen him. At first, I told myself it was harmless. Just one conversation. One stupid lie. But when I realized he genuinely believed I was my sister, I didn't stop. I kept talking, kept pretending. And honestly, I liked the attention. The next day, I took it even further. I convinced him to meet me again, still pretending to be her. But this time, something felt different. He looked nervous, like he knew something wasn't right, like he didn't trust what was happening. And suddenly I realized, this wasn't a prank anymore. This was manipulation. So I finally told him the truth. I showed him the birthmark. And the second he realized who I really was, the look on his face changed. It wasn't anger. It wasn't confusion. It was fear. Pure fear. And that's the moment everything hit me. I hadn't just lied. I hadn't just hurt my sister. I had completely shattered someone's trust. He looked at me like he didn't even know who I was anymore. I left immediately, but I still can't get that look out of my head. I was so jealous of my sister that I became the villain in someone else's story. And now, I think I ruined everything. My neighbor called the cops on me. Then the police discovered what he was hiding. I moved into my house about 8 months ago. From day one, my neighbor hated me. I wasn't loud. I didn't throw parties. I mostly kept to myself. But every chance he got, he'd complain. My grass was too long. My trash cans were visible. My car was parked too close to the curb. It got so bad that he started recording me whenever I stepped outside. Then one morning I woke up to 2 police officers at my door. Apparently, my neighbor reported that I was stealing packages from nearby homes. I was completely blindsided. The officers asked questions, checked my security cameras, and within 10 minutes it was obvious I hadn't stolen anything. I thought that would be the end of it. It wasn't. One of the officers asked if my cameras recorded the street. They did. So they started reviewing footage from the dates my neighbor claimed the thefts happened. And that's when everything changed. The video showed someone taking packages. But it wasn't me. It was my neighbor. over and over again. The same guy who called the police on me was caught stealing from multiple houses on my security cameras. The officers left my house and walked straight to his. About an hour later, he was sitting in the back of a patrol car. Turns out he had been filing complaints against me for months, hoping someone would eventually find a reason to arrest me. Instead, he accidentally handed the police the evidence that got himself arrested. Now, half the neighborhood thinks it's karma. The other half thinks I should have warned him my cameras covered the street. Should I have said anything about my cameras to him? My son lost our family's $30,000 emergency fund on crypto, so I sold his car. I'm a 58-year-old father. My son is 27. 2 years ago, I helped him buy his first car. He paid part of it. I covered the rest and told him he could pay me back whenever he was able. I trusted him. Then last month, I asked my wife about our $30,000 emergency fund. She went silent. After a long pause, she finally admitted the truth. 4 months earlier, she secretly gave every dollar to our son without telling me. He promised her he'd invest it, double the money, pay us back, and we'd never even know. Instead, he lost every single dollar. I didn't yell. I didn't lose my temper. I just asked him to tell me exactly what happened. He admitted everything. He thought crypto would make him rich. Instead, he wiped out our emergency savings. The money we'd spent years building. The part that hurt most wasn't losing the money. It was realizing my wife and son had hidden it from me for 4 months. A few days later, my son came to me with an idea. He said, "Sell my car." He knew it wouldn't cover everything, but he wanted to start paying us back. So I sold it. My wife begged me not to. She said I was punishing our own son. My in-laws called me greedy. They said I'd taken away the only good thing he had. Even some of my own relatives agreed. My son isn't fighting me. He says he understands. But everyone else acts like I'm the villain. I don't think selling his car fixes what happened. But if losing $30,000 has no consequences, what lesson does that teach? My parents secretly let my brother move in with me, then got angry when I changed the locks. I bought my first house about a year ago. I worked for years to afford it. A few weeks ago, my older brother went through a breakup. My parents asked if he could stay with me. I said no, and there was a reason. My brother has a history of moving in with family and never leaving. What starts as a few weeks usually turns into months, sometimes years. So I told them no. I thought that was the end of it. It wasn't. Last Friday, I came home from dinner and saw my brother's car in my driveway. I walked inside and found him cooking in my kitchen. His suitcases were in the hallway. His boxes were already in my spare room. I was stunned. I asked how he got inside, and he casually said, "Mom gave me your emergency key." Apparently, my parents decided that once he was already moved in, I'd calm down and let him stay. My brother said I was overreacting and only needed a couple weeks. I told him to pack his things and leave. He refused. So I told him he could stay with our parents, a hotel, a friend. I didn't care, but he wasn't staying in my house. After an hour of arguing, he finally left. The next morning, I changed every lock on the house. When my mom found out, she cried and said I treated her like a criminal. But here's the part that makes me laugh. My brother is now living with my parents, and suddenly they're complaining. He stays up all night, leaves dishes everywhere, and ignores their rules. Exactly what I warned them would happen. So was changing the locks really an overreaction? My friend told me my identity wasn't real, then blamed me for ruining her birthday. A friend from our old group moved away 4 years ago. We barely spoke the entire time, but this year she moved back, and for her birthday. Our friend group booked a weekend at a luxury hotel. Everything was fine at first. Then everyone started drinking, and somehow, the conversation turned to me. She looked me up and down and asked why I'd changed so much. Now, to be fair, I have changed. I lost weight. My style is different. My hair is much longer. But then she said something that completely caught me off guard. She told me I'd turned into a stereotype, a soft, prude Asian girl who dresses to impress men. I told her that was ridiculous. My best friend even jumped in and pointed out I'd been dressing this way long before I met my boyfriend. But she wouldn't let it go. She kept insisting everything about my appearance was designed to appeal to men. Then it got worse. I'm a gender. Everyone in my friend group knows that. But she kept referring to me as a woman. So I finally called her out on it. And her response shocked me. She said my identity didn't matter, because society would always see me as a woman anyway. Then she started ranting about how people like me were reinforcing harmful standards. At that point, I was done. I went back to my room, packed my bags, and left the hotel. The next day she called me, not to apologize, but to tell me I was being dramatic and that I ruined her birthday. Now she's furious because I left. But after being told my identity wasn't real, was I really supposed to stay? My best friend uninvited my wife from his wedding after we already bought plane tickets. My best friend is getting married. A year ago, he invited both me and my wife to his destination wedding. He told us airfare was the only thing we'd have to pay for. So we started planning. We requested PTO, bought plane tickets, bought clothes for the trip, and spent months preparing. Everything was confirmed. Multiple times. Both of us were invited. Then 6 weeks before the wedding, I got a phone call. My friend told me there was no longer room for my wife. She had been removed from the guest list, but I was still welcome to come. I thought he was joking. He wasn't. Apparently, they had invited too many people, and suddenly guests were getting cut. Some were told they'd have to pay for their own accommodations. Others were uninvited completely. My wife was one of them. I asked how this could happen. They knew the venue capacity from the beginning. But every time I asked for an explanation, he dodged the question and kept saying, "It's our wedding," which is true. It is their wedding. But they'd spent an entire year telling people one thing and then changed everything after people spent money. So I told him something. If my wife isn't welcome, neither am I. I wasn't asking him to re-invite her. I wasn't demanding anything. I was simply choosing not to attend. Now he's telling people I'm overreacting. But after everything we'd spent, was I really supposed to leave my wife at home and celebrate anyway?